Well, it's 2:30, so I'm going to welcome you all to this afternoon session talking about using an ESRI story map to present your Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Our speaker today is Gwen Ford. I'm Sarah Ray with NCDOT, but more importantly, our speaker today is Gwen Ford. She is a Transportation GIS Analyst for the High Point Metropolitan Planning Organization. And as you guys are joining our session this afternoon, you'll see a couple of polls up. Please go ahead and respond to those polls as I give you a little more background on Gwen. She holds a master's degree in Geography GIS from the University of South Carolina and has over a dozen years of experience working with ESRI's GIS technology, state, local, and regional governments. But she's been with the High Point MPO for 14 years. That's awesome. Gwen will take questions as she's presenting today, so please feel free to go ahead and load up the chat so that I can get those questions over to her as she's presenting. As a reminder, for continuing education credit, make sure your full name is correct on the Zoom login. And this session is being recorded and will be available on the conference website after the event. So I'll be in touch, keeping Gwen on time and keeping an eye on the chat to make sure she gets her questions. And again, fill out the poll, and over to you, Gwen.
All right, thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate you taking the time to answer the poll. So what I wanted to share with you, it looks like some of you have never heard of an MPO. Most of you are familiar with ESRI story maps. So let me start with what an MPO is. The MPO is a regional transportation planning organization. So for High Point, we do transportation planning for Davidson County, obviously High Point within Guilford County, parts of Randolph County, and an itty-bitty little portion of Forsyth County. So we are a federally mandated organization, and we have to put out federal documents, federal plans. So one of those plans is the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. It's a long-range plan that covers 20, 25 years. So that's an MPO in a nutshell. And of course, it's like with any federal plans, they're long, they're boring, there's lots of words and lots of pages and very few graphics. So, however, when you put out a plan, you do have to have citizen input. So it's very difficult to get citizens to partake in the plan and show any interest in the plan if you don't have any graphics to engage them and, you know, kind of break the monotony of all the words. So what we decided to do, actually we did this 5 years ago with our last Metropolitan Transportation Plan, and it worked out pretty well. So I kind of did it again this year and cleaned it up a bit and got, well, I'll be honest, 2 rave reviews. So I said that's 2 more than I got last time. So I said, well, let me present it, and kind of maybe some other people who are in here who are part of other metropolitan planning organizations or you know, DOT organizations might get some ideas on how to present your projects and your plans. So to get started, I wanted to just kind of touch base on the, I'm looking at my poll quick here. All right, so I want to touch base on the story map part. ESRI, if you're not familiar with ESRI story maps, which most of you are, I'm going to just show you this. This website is the ESRI training website, and I have a link in the chat. You can see that they have several classes on story maps. What is a story map? How do I get into story maps? So this is a great place to get started if you like what you see and you kind of want to dabble in it. Now, ESRI started, they actually have 2 platforms for story maps. This is the newest platform, and this is not the one that I'm using. because the transportation plan already is long, and you would just be scrolling forever. And I wanted something a little bit more engaging for the citizens to look at. But I just wanted to show you this, that there are two platforms, so that you can, while you're thinking about how to use this, you can kind of see your options. So this is the newest version. It's more of a scrolling platform than the classic version. So the classic version, is what I've used. There are several templates in the classic version as well as in the new version, and all that's covered in their training sessions. You can look at that. For the MTP, I actually used 3 templates, one of which isn't even in here. That's how old I am. That's how old. That's how long I've been doing this. So the 3 templates that I used, let me show you here, is the Storymap journal. That's going to be the main part. And I'm going to walk you through our plan so you can see it. I also use the Storymap series to show, because it has different tabs. So when we create the transportation plan, we have horizon years. So there's actually 3 horizon years, and then 1 year that's like pie in the sky. If we could, let's just put these, they're kind of bookmark projects. So for each horizon year, I had a separate tab to show the projects and their details. And then the very last template that I use, that's not even in here, it's a compare analysis, and I use that for our environmental justice maps, just to kind of show what it does. And I'll show you in a second here the different areas and how the different projects affect different communities. So this is our website for the our current Metropolitan Transportation Plan. We just adopted this. And so traditionally, we would just have, and this is actually a little bit fancier than it was the last time, because we actually have a menu on the side over here, and then you could have a little graphic, a little text. But in essence, this was how we would present it. Pretty boring. And all the read-on links just go straight to PDF, which is even, I'll just show it to you. Yeah, so here's what you'd be looking at. Woo, yeah. So, go back to here. So you can see there's not a lot of maps. So what we wanted to do this year, I'm going to move that out of the way. What we wanted to do this year was to present it in a more interactive fashion. So this is the front, this is the entry into our story map. This is the journal template, and on the side you can see that I can scroll through the chapters, so to speak. So this is introduction. So on the left side you can have your text. I think there's like a couple different ways you can do this. You can actually have this panel floating. And then on the main frame, you over here, you can have your graphic, you can have a map, you could have a video. We don't have any videos, but you can see that I have different chapters. So on the far side, you can see home, introduction, background. So you can either click through the chapters this way, or you can just scroll through the text this way, and as you go through each chapter, just the main screen will change. All right, so that's one template. So within this template, I created two other story maps to display the biggest chapter, which is our multimodal transportation plan. So in the multimodal transportation plan, there are 2 additional templates. This is what I was telling you earlier about the series template. So you can see here that we have different horizon years. So all the projects that we think we will be able to accomplish in 2025 will go into the 2025 horizon year, and for 2035, these are the projects that we think we would be able to accomplish then in 2045. Now, of course, this is assuming that there will be funding that far, that far ahead in the future, but this is what we think will happen. And then, of course, these are the bookmark plans, the post-year plans that we're like, well, these are great projects, but we just don't think that we have the funding to accomplish them, but we don't want you to forget about them either. So we're just going to put them in a post-year horizon year. And a nice thing about the story map is because the maps are interactive, you can click on them and get information on the projects. And this really comes in handy throughout the year as people call in and say, hey, we heard there's a project that's going on near me and I want to find out a little bit more about it. I can just pull this up and zoom into their location and say, oh yeah, there's a bridge going in near you, and that's what all those cones are for, or whatever. So it's a quick way for me to reference our projects when someone calls and asks about them. Right. So I have all these tabs up, and then on top of that, I have the Zoom tools hiding my tabs. So I'm going to close some of these tabs out. Now, another template that we use for the environmental justice mapping, this is the compare analysis, which was not, this is an old template. I don't know why ESRI doesn't offer this anymore. I'm sure if you contacted them, they could probably give you the link to it, but I had this already in my toolkit, so I was able to do this. And what I like about this compare analysis template is you can zoom in and it kind of shows you, the equivalent for the different protected groups. So I have the Asian population, and when we do this, we set up thresholds based on the total population within our planning organization. So the threshold will be different if I were to do it for just the city of High Point or just Guilford County. So, as I zoom in here, I can see, okay, this project is, I can find out information about this project. I can see who it's affecting. Okay, it looks like it's going through an area, and this is all census data. It's affecting an area that is predominantly Asian. And it does look like there might be some Hispanic in that area, as well as a little bit of Native American, very little. But so that just want to show you an example of this compare analysis template. Right, so creating a story map is a little bit tedious. You do have to create a lot of layers. So I'm going to show you my workspace here, all the stuff that goes into creating that story map. These are all the different maps. There's some apps in there, layers. And so when you're using a layer in a story map, there are certain ways that you have to export it. I just export it as a zipped shapefile. I find that easiest. It's up to you, however you want to do it. But although on the front end, it's kind of nice. It's a nice way to present your data. I will say on the back end, it's a little tedious, and you will have to kind of keep track of all your different layers and all your different maps. And I don't know if you were in the presentation before mine talking about borrowing data from other sources, but we do borrow data from other sources. I'll go back in here and show you. Um, so yeah, so the, so like the railroads, this is all NCDOT data. Even the, let me scroll down here to the environmental mitigation map. And you can see I have here, this is USGS data via ESRI, the freight element, are the truck routes, the truck network from NCDOT. So there is a lot of data that you can access directly from ArcGIS Online, as well as putting in your own data. I think that's pretty much all I have to show, unless anybody want to see anything in particular? Questions?
So Gwen, have you noticed any greater public engagement as a result of having this?
This year, no. COVID just killed off all our public engagement. Is really, the MTP is so complicated and the whole process is so complicated that I think it intimidates a lot of people. So for them to just walk in and be like, whoa, look at all those lines, I don't know what they are. It's a lot better when we can be present and they can say, oh, so I live here. Are there any projects? And then I can go in here and say, okay, sorry, map. I can zoom in, and this is, so when we're at a, public function and somebody walks up and says, yeah, okay, so, I live off of Burton Avenue. Are there any projects? I can zoom in and I can show them, yes, there's this project that's scheduled for 2025. And that has, in the past, has been the only way we've gotten really good feedback. But just this online, I'm telling you, man, the MTP, it's intimidating even to the staff that created it. So yeah, I do feel for the citizens. They're just not gonna really be interested in this stuff until it happens in their neighborhood.
Do you have like a top 2 or top 3 like recommendations for somebody who would be starting brand new with Storymaps?
Top recommendation is going back to that here, the ESRI catalog, training catalog. Start with this, getting started with Storymaps, and just, there's a lot of good things. So there's getting started. There's even this anatomy of a story. So it kind of shows you, how you want to plan out your story map before you even create it. And then once the more you plan on the front end, the less confusing it'll be on the back end. So you want to think about how you want to lay out your story map, what sort of interactions, and look at other people's story maps and say, oh yeah, I want to recreate this, to display that. That's kind of how I got started, just looking at a bunch of story maps, and there's tons of them out there.
So we do have a question. Mm-hmm. Have you used have you used Map Action Tool in Storymaps?
I have not.
Yeah, so Amy was saying she's been trying to figure it out, and she's got a couple of concerns about how to make it clear to tell the user to click on the action links.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I didn't go that route, because the MTP is convoluted enough that I didn't want to add any more difficulty to our presentation. So I did not go that route. The Map Action Tool, the only thing I can suggest is maybe putting in bright green text. Hey, you can click on this and it will do this. Because that's kind of what we did the first time.
Yeah.
That's the only suggestion I have.
So have you tried any of the new story maps?
I have not used that new, the new scrolling version.
Okay.
We don't have anything that's interesting enough to encourage people to scroll past the first part. So maybe at some point we will come up, maybe with like, if we have a specific transportation project that was like interest to a lot of people, we might go that route.
All right, so that was from Amanda. Alice is asking if you've tried adding a way for citizens to input comments or vote for projects.
Oh, yes. So not necessarily to vote for projects, but oh, you know what? I changed this. I think I did change this. But under public involvement, it would be directly from the Storymap. It takes you back to our website where they can enter comments and yeah, we don't really do voting. Yeah, you can't really vote for a project. That might be something we'll add. I'll run that by my boss and see what he thinks about that. But in the past, most people will say, we just don't want that project by my house. So that's how the voting goes. So, you know, yeah, we haven't really gone that route. I'm going to try that. I'm going to think about that.
Yeah, and then in the chat, we have a general consensus that we hope ESRI doesn't continue to hide the traditional classic story map option.
They make it really hard to find. And, you know, it's a shame. And I know that ESRI, I mean, they're gearing the new story map towards a certain audience. But I think that they just don't realize, you know, the classic story map is like fine wine. And you know, there's still a few of us that really like that style. They are going to continue. My understanding is that they're going to continue to support it. But as far as making it easy to find, yeah, there is. Let me see here. If you go to their getting started with story maps, I don't know if I still have that up. I don't think I do. There's a little blurb, all 5 lines, 5 words that says, if you want to see the classic story map, click here. And that's it. And then the whole rest of the web page is, you know, the new stuff. But I don't speak for ESRI, sorry. Any ESRI people on here?
Yeah, bring back classic where we can find it.
Yeah.
Or update the new one with the tab ability.
Right, yeah. Well, they do have, and they do actually have, the new one has several options with some tab ability. But again, the way, I think it depends on what your content is. If your content is interesting to where people will be interested in clicking on the next tab or scrolling to the next screen, I think that works great. If you have lots of video, lots of photos, like if we were to present which is actually not our department, but say engineering were to present a road project and they wanted to show the development of it, you know, this is where we are at this stage, this is the new drone footage. I could totally see that happening with the new story maps. You know, because they would show like phase 1 and then the next tab would be like phase 2 and, you know, phase 3. Yeah, transportation planning is just not that exciting.
And you got a couple of kudos in here, one from Joe and one from Nancy as well. So great job.
Thank you.
Anybody else with some final questions? I'll second them, Gwen. This was great.
I appreciate the kudos. I was very nervous. This is like my 3rd time on Zoom, so I almost wore my wig and my hat because I was feeling kind of nervous. I was like, maybe I can hide a little bit.
Some sunglasses.
Yeah, the sunglasses, and yeah, I was like, I'm used to being in front of people where I can see their faces and read their body language. So this was, my hands are still sweating.
Well, you did great.
Thank you.
So everybody, we do have a break from 3:45. No, from 3 to 3:15, and there's a couple of sessions. Or if you want to hop over to the parcel management talk that is taking up the good chunk of this early afternoon, feel free to head over there. Other than that, great job, Gwen.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, somebody asked what MTP was again. Sorry, but right. Brett, I'm going to give you the link to our website if you're interested in that. I loved your squid hat. That was awesome.
All right, are you all set?
I think we're all set.
All right.
Thanks,
Have a great
Jeremy.
day. Of course.
Thanks, Jeremy.